ReZero, Side Story, Mushoku Tensei x ReZero Collaboration, Chapter 1.
I was completely at a loss. Where am I? I looked right, then left. It didn't matter, I didn't recognize anything. I didn't recognize the town, the faces, or even the feel of the place. This was definitely an odd situation. A minute ago I'd been inside a mansion, and now all around me was the hustle and bustle of a town I'd never seen before. There's only one conclusion a person could make. I must have teleported. I snapped my fingers as I said it. That's how Natsuki Subaru, rolled. I guess you could say it was natural. After all, you wouldn't know it to look at me, but this wasn't my first time getting teleported someplace. I'd even experienced being summoned to another world. It's not like I was going to panic and break down and cry. I wasn't that weak. Looks like I have my summon to another world greed set with me. The plastic bag was just the same as the first day I was summoned, snacks, cup noodles, and in my pocket, a flip phone. Everything was so much like last time, I could have cried. I don't even get a single Excalibur. As if it'd be that easy. Right. I don't have time to be depressed. I have to get back ASAP. I closed the flip phone and girded my loins. Maybe it was my unusual clothes, but I could feel the stab of people's eyes. It bothered me. I had to act, and act now. I had to get back to the mansion. I made a promise. Emilia Tan is waiting for me, a date with the girl of my dreams. There was no way I'd let anything get in the way of that. I made a vow in my heart, and raced across that unfamiliar town. Long story short, you're from another world. Wow. Seriously, that was how my conversation with that bland-faced guy went. He was so average-looking that maybe I should have called him bystander. But it seemed he was actually some god called Hitogami. I was pretty surprised to hear him announce himself as a literal god, but I was probably dreaming, so I figured that was just how these things went. It's convenient that you're so resilient, Natsuki-kun. Or should I say Subaru-kun? If I had to pick one or the other, I'd go with Subaru. By the way, Mr. God, is it okay if I ask a few questions? Like why I'm here, in this world? That's a good question. To be honest, I don't know the answer myself. But you're a god, aren't you? Even gods aren't all-knowing. But hey, I can tell you something that'll help. You do want to go back to the world you came from, don't you? Well, that depends on which world you're talking about. The world you were in right before you came here. That one, you know. So, how about it? Naturally, I had to answer yes. I made a promise, and I have a bunch of other reasons to go back. So get me back there, ASAP, Mr. God. Well, you know, I'd love to do that, but I told you, didn't I? I can only tell you things. You're the one who has to take action. I knew it wouldn't be that simple. So, what do I have to do? Don't get your knickers in a twist. First, why do you think I want to tell you something? Is it because I keep disappearing into different worlds? Have the gods made some kind of mistake? Nah, the six-faced world is out of my jurisdiction. I think I've said this before, but do you guys always mistrust gods when this sort of thing happens? You guys? Let's put aside the issue of you grouping me together with everyone else, but where I'm from, we don't really see our gods screwing up and sending people to other worlds, you know. I see. Then for now, let's just drop all our preconceived notions. I'm not like the other gods, got it? By the way, could you explain why you said you guys earlier? Pretty observant, aren't you? More like desperate. Is there someone else here from another world? That answer relates to my previous question. To tell you the truth, I have the power to see people's futures. Oh, wow. I guess you are a god, and it looks like your future will change because you're here. And that change isn't too convenient for me. The person I've got my eye on will die. Well, that doesn't make me feel too good, either, right? It's a big issue for both of us. To get you back to your old world, you need a certain magical tool. Activating it requires a humongous amount of magical power, you see. You get it now? You mean the person with that humongous amount of magical power is going to die if something doesn't change? Bingo. You catch on quick, don't you? So now that we're on the same page, You understand we have a mutual interest in this, right? I want this person to help me get back to my old world. And you, Hitogami, don't want them to die. That about cover it? Yes. Right now, said person is in the vicinity of the Red Dragon's mandible. That's south of the town you're in. You should meet up with him there. Got it. By the way, what is that all-important magical tool? Oh yeah. I forgot. The tool in question looks like this. Lo and behold, a vision of the magical tool or whatever it was hovered in the sky. It looked kind of like a pendant with a chain attached. The design was so generic that it wasn't going to be easy to find. Your dream's almost over. For your sake and mine, give it all you've got, okay? You make it sound like it's not even your problem. Well, anyway, thanks for your help, I'll do my best. Whoa, hold on. What about that person I'm supposed to look for? Oh, that's right. Right. His name is, Good morning. I take it you slept well. So said a middle-aged man with a peacock tattoo on his cheek. He was wearing a rainbow-colored top, knee-length shorts, and sported a hairstyle that looked like a parabolic antenna. Pretty intense. Mr. Subaru? Oh, good morning, Mr. Orba. Thank you for letting me stay. What? It's nothing. Anyone would do the same, Orba said, out of consideration for me. His smile brimmed with human kindness. Quite the opposite of what you'd expect from him at first glance. I met him the other day when I was wandering around town with nowhere to go. We hit it off, that's all. And he really liked my tracksuit and flip phone, so he let me sleep here. Honestly, part of me kind of suspected he was just after my ass, but now that it was morning and my posterior was untouched, I felt bad for thinking that. Even though I was unfortunate enough to cross worlds, I was still saved by the bonds of our common humanity. I owe people so much, and what will you do now, Mr. Subaru? Last night you were troubled, and said you had nowhere to go, but today, well, I guess you can say that now, I do have somewhere to go. Have you heard of the Red Dragon's mandible? I asked timidly, while we had breakfast. It was Orba's treat. If this dragon's mandible was a real place, then I wouldn't have to worry about whether the dream was just a figment of my imagination. That is the name of a canyon not far from here. It is near the border in the Red Dragon Mountains. Do you have business there? So it does exist. That's a load off my back. I don't have business at the mandible, but a town further south. I think a friend of a friend might be there, so, I see. Yes, indeed, friend of a friend. That phrase was kind of disrespectful to the god and whoever this other person was, but I decided to let that slide for now. Orba crossed his arms and nodded. I felt nervous, like maybe he had a problem with what I'd said. But there was never any reason to worry. You should use a carriage if you are going south of Red Dragon's mandible. Actually, as it happens, I have some business there as well. It was obvious Mr. Orba was lying, and badly. He didn't want me to feel indebted to him, but he wanted to take me there. Why, Mr. Subaru, you have entertained me with such fascinating stories. I think those tales will perhaps help hone my sword skills. You have saved my future. This is how I would repay you. So please, take it as such. I thought I was going to cry. What was with this guy? He looked like, well, you know, but he was such a great guy. I appreciate that, Mr. Orba. Seriously, thank you so much. His words were the words of a swordsman, and I, another swordsman, decided to take them at face value. Although in my case, I only did a little kendo when I was in junior high, Orba and I got in the carriage and left town, headed south towards Red Dragon's mandible. Before we passed through the canyon, I saw some red dragons flying over the peaks. Don't tell anyone, but it made me a little anxious. The red dragons are the ultimate monsters of the central continent. Do not act rashly. You couldn't defeat one either, Mr. Orba. I would most likely be defeated by their strength in numbers, answered Orba, adjusting the 4 swords at his hip. The ride was uneventful, and we passed the time with small talk until we reached our destination. This isn't much, but... Orba filled a leather bag with money and handed it to me. Seriously, I couldn't thank that guy enough. Of course, he offered to stay until I found that friend of a friend, but I turned him down. He had already done too much for me. And I learned a lot from him while we were traveling. I took all that to heart, and decided to do the next part myself. Until we meet again, Mr. Subaru. I pray for your good health, said Orba Corvette, the Emperor of the North, as he put his hand to his heart and acknowledged my resolve. If my wish came true, then I would leave this world. But before that, I hoped I could write him a letter filled with gratitude. That was what I was thinking when I headed out to find this friend of a friend. Now, where are you, Rudius? Halt, said some brown-haired kid. He looked old enough to be in elementary school. He had a kind face and a freckle under his left eye. He was pretty enough that I guessed someday the girls would love him. The kid held a big staff, standing there at the entrance of an alley. Thugs around me scattered, and I, on the ground in only my socks and undies, looked up at him in surprise. Everything else had been ripped from me. You totally saved me. Thanks. I owe you one. Let me say this again, grazie. Merci beaucoup. Undressed and half-naked, I bowed to the boy who saved me. No, seriously, I legit thought I was going to die. I parted ways with Orba and flew off feeling like my own man. Like I could really do this. That's when some thugs caught me in a back alley and took everything. Almost my life, too. My bad luck struck again, and I seriously regretted trying to act like a big man. I never should have asked Orba to go. Oh God. Or like, God, I've been saved. But please tell me, in detail, how to save myself next time. I didn't care how embarrassing I was. Who'd care about that now? They'd already stripped me to my underwear in the middle of town. Living was the most important thing. No more muggings. Please, will you be all right? Said the boy, waiting for an opening in my joyous appreciation of life. I bowed my head to him again. Seriously, you saved me. My name is Natsuki Subaru, and I have no money to thank you with, but let me say it, at least. Maybe a couple thousand times. Please don't say it 1,000 times. There are a few things I'd like to ask you about, actually. Your appearance, for starters. Oh, this. It might be an unusual look, but it's not anything too nice. Though actually, it's probably the reason they targeted me. It's a tracksuit, right? That, and a bag from a minimart, and... The boy blabbered suddenly, scratching his head. Oh, damn. I don't even know where to start. My brain froze when I figured out what he meant. The boy took a deep breath. Maybe you're from another world, too? I'm Rudius Greyrat. Rudius. You're Rudius? The one Hitogami talked about? He made a face, didn't he? It's nothing. It's just, you brought up the name of that shady. So you're mixed up with Hitogami, too? He was in my dreams. I get what you mean by shady, but to be honest, he saved me, you know? I put my hands together in gratitude, by that gesture you just made, and your name. You're Japanese, aren't you? Ooh, yes. I'm a Japanese guy who's been summoned to another world. Rudius, you said too, but you kinda look like a local. In my case, I was reincarnated here. I've been living here since I was a baby, so on this day, someone summoned from another world met someone reincarnated from another world. It's so easy to talk to someone who understands. Oops, I guessed Rudius thought he'd said too much, because he covered his mouth. I burst out laughing. Summoned and reincarnated, we were both doing pretty well. I guess it was pretty easy for two people from another world to get along. We understood each other's situation. It was almost like we were already best friends. So you need my magic and a magical tool to get back to your world. I know it's rude to ask, but it looks like you're doing pretty well for yourself here. Maybe you don't really have time to deal with me? No, there's no issue with the magic thing. I mean, I just met someone from home, you know? We're on the same team. But I'm thinking that finding this magical tool won't be a walk in the park. I can't believe you'll do this for me, just like that, huh? If you saw someone from Japan in trouble in your world, could you ignore them? You couldn't, right? He laughed with a strangely pessimistic expression that didn't match his age. His words made me think. I mean, how about it? Could I do what Rudius was doing? After all, I still owed Orba. If nothing else, I hoped I could at least try to be like Rudius. I decided to head with him to the Asura kingdom. If we go to Asura, I have friends that will help me out. Plus, there's a lot of people there, so it'll be easier to get some info about that magical tool. We'll just settle in there and find a way to get you home at our leisure. That was Rudius's plan, and I had no objections. In fact, the only one who did was the girl who was with him. Really, Rudius, you're too good for your own good. You just keep on making life harder for yourself, said Eris, the pretty redhead, her brows askew. This lover of his wouldn't sit quietly on the sidelines, or, at least, she was probably a candidate to be his lover someday. She certainly didn't look very happy about me barging in on their journey. Rudius talked it over with her, and suddenly I'd become a drifter who needed to get back to his family in Asura. I didn't know anything, couldn't do anything, and had no plans. Rudius had taken pity on me. That's how he explained it. The ends justify the means, right? Said Rudius. When he laughed, he looked downright evil. I decided to keep that thought to myself. Anyway, Eris and Ruigid, the other person with them, eventually agreed. I was all good to join them on their journey. Ruigid was pretty scary looking, but he was nice to kids, and it looked like he decided I was one, too. I guess that's why he was so nice. That's how I took full advantage of their giving souls. I even started to think that things would keep going like this. We'd find the magical tool, and I'd be back in no time. I wish I could curse how dumb I was. When will I ever learn? They say even death can't fix stupid. No one knows that more than me. No matter how many times I return by death, this part of my personality never goes away. Once again, we passed the Red Dragon's mandible, the place I passed through with Orba, but this time from the north side. We just passed that canyon when we met up with him. Rudius, do not move. Eris, Subaru, you, too, warned Ruigid. He sounded seriously worried. Eris's face went red and she shook all over. Rudius and I had no clue, and scrunched up our faces. The man was tall with silver hair and golden eyes. I shouldn't talk, but he had an evil gaze. There wasn't anything more to him, so why are they both acting like that? Interesting. You do not turn your gaze from mine, said the man, staring at us. Real touching that he thought we were brave, but slowly, I started to get a bad feeling about it all. Rudius seemed worried too. That's strange. I have no memory of ever having met you. I felt this way before. In that warehouse of stolen stuff, when I was negotiating with the Bowel Hunter. And back then, things got nasty. Tell me. Have heard this word before? Hitogami. Yeah, sure have. Rudius and I reflexively answered together. It was a strange feeling of hopelessness and urgency that did it. That was how this guy made us feel. I just wanted to break the silence. That was a mistake. Subaru, the voice felt like a blow to my shoulder. The man's hand pierced my chest like a spear. A moment later, my brain registered the pain. Everything turned red. Blood and screams burst out of my throat. It didn't just hurt. It was heartrending. The guy pierced Rudius's chest too, and he crumpled to the ground. It was an instantaneous death. At the same time, Rudius's hand pushed my shoulder. That's why I didn't die right away, but it was still fatal. My head struck the hard ground. Hitogami's words belatedly passed through my mind. Rudius was going to die. This was it. I knew it. I'd let it happen. Far away, Ruigid and Eris attacked the guy who'd killed us. They didn't have a chance. The sounds of their battle reached me, but my eyes couldn't follow. As my world clouded over, I saw something fall from the man's sleeve. A pendant. A pendant on a chain. What? I tried to speak, but I couldn't even tell if air or blood came out. But there was Rudius's life, and the tool I needed to go back, and that guy was an obstacle between me and them both. I looked at Rudius, clinging to this memory. I was stupid. Because of me, my friend would die with me. Even now, he was fighting death, trying to shield me. Eiffel had a chance in this world. If there was a way for me to save my friend, then I will save you. The instant I said that, I lost all consciousness. We died, then it began. The loop of another world, in another world.
Mushoku Tensei X Re Zero Collaboration, Chapter 2.
Good morning. It seems you slept well. I woke up to see a man with a peacock tattoo on his cheek. He wore a rainbow-colored top, knee-length shorts, and sported a hairstyle that looked like a parabolic antenna. Pretty intense. Mr. Subaru? Good morning, Mr. Orba. I touched my chest with my right hand and wiped the sweat off my forehead with my left. I could feel the echo of my heart beating quickly. You do not seem well. Are you sick, perhaps? Dream? No, it wasn't a dream. I could still feel that guy piercing my chest. So, at that point, it was a return by death, right? I, Natsuki Subaru, had a special power. To make a long story short, when I die, my life rewinds to a certain point, so I can redo things. Even though I called it my power, it wasn't like I could pick where I started over. I'd be hard-pressed to say it was convenient. This time, I didn't know what happened, much less what my goal was. But compared to the other times, it was easy to figure out. To get back to my old world, I needed that magical tool. And that guy had it. He would kill my friend, Rudius, who I needed to activate the tool. Rudius, who was nice to me, who was in a bind in another world, just like I was. In short, if I could kill that guy, the crazy one who came out of the blue and killed us while we were traveling, I could get home and Rudius could stay alive. He looked really strong, but he was alone. There were a million ways to do it. We could take a strong bodyguard with us or something, right? What will you do now, Mr. Subaru? Last night you were troubled, and said you had nowhere to go, but today, it's about that, but it's hard to explain. I raised my head, and there he was, this guy. The Emperor of the North, Orba Corvette. In contrast to his strict gaze, he had a cool nickname like Emperor of the North. I knew someone called a sword saint, and having a nickname like that usually meant you had the skills to back it up. Mr. Orba, you're good with swords, right? Well now, as I am still in training, I hesitate to sing my own praises, but I have indeed been granted the title Emperor of the North. It would not do for me to be overly modest. That is how it stands. Why do you ask? I'm already in your debt for the night and the meal, and I'm embarrassed to say that I have something else to ask of you, but, you want me to kill someone? Yeah, that about sums it up. I do not wield this sword lightly, please. The truth is, some guy is after my friend. He's going to kill him. And my friend's a really good guy, who helped me out just because we come from the same place. Well, in that case, I suppose it might be all right. So it's okay? My teacher once said, do not hold back your sword when indebted to another. I suppose that applies to cases such as this. I wanted to cry. Since I'd come to this world, I'd been blessed by fate and the bonds between people. There was also that crazy guy who assaulted people by the side of the road though, so maybe that evened things out. I owe you, and that's how I got the Emperor of the North, Orba Corvette, to join our party. There aren't many details. But to put it bluntly, that guy's going to kill you. Seriously. So let me get this straight, you've come here from another world, but, originally you're from yet another world. And you've come all this way, with reinforcements, to save my life? You're such a great guy. Well, admittedly, there's also the bit about me wanting to make it home. As usual, Rudius caught on quickly. After I explained the situation, he figured out the rest. I suppose it might have been because he was reincarnated and I was summoned, but maybe Rudius was just a friendly guy. I mean, people were usually more guarded, and you believe me? Just like that. Well, you know, after you've been reincarnated once, and I've already run into some beings who can see the future, so, that brought the hazy outline of Hitogami to mind. He had a point. If beings like that existed, I guess you'd more easily believe in anything paranormal. So, what's the plan? Overwhelm him with numbers, something like that. Rudius, Eris, Ruijerd, Orba and me. That was 5 people. I was pretty much useless, but the other 4, including Rudius, were incredibly strong. No matter how strong that man was, if so many super strong people attacked him, he was going to go down. To put it simply, I'll blind him with this, and then everyone will rush into attack. That's it. I held my flip phone with a big grin on my face, but Rudius had a thoughtful look. Something wrong? No, let's go with that. All the same, Rudius seemed to have issues with the plan. Well, I guess he would, right? From his point of view, that guy was just a stranger. And it went against his morals to attack a stranger for no reason, even though that stranger would kill him. To be honest, I didn't like it very much either. Hey, I can't really explain it, but he's really dangerous. He'll attack you for no reason, all of a sudden. You might not like it, but believe me. Save me. No, I believe it. And even if you were lying about that part, it doesn't look like you're lying about wanting to go back to your old world. He was so kind. If you saw someone from Japan in trouble in your world, could you just ignore them? You couldn't, right? I'd heard that before, in the previous loop. No matter how many times I get stuck in this loop, I think Rudius would always say the same thing. I just had to repay him for those words. The red dragon's mandible. We ran into that guy again. The tall man with the silver hair and golden eyes. As soon as he saw him, Ruijid shivered with fierce vigilance and Eris grabbed her scabbard. Orba was affected, too. His eyes opened wide and sweat dribbled down his chin. Only Rudius and I were immune, so we acted according to the plan. I stood in front of that guy as he walked up to us, defenseless. Hey, you. Do you know what this is? I turned on the flash on my flip phone. Right after that, my arm flew off. Literally flew off. The flash didn't even make him blink. He didn't even step back. He just attacked his enemies. Us. Before I even realized that my arm was gone, Ruijid jumped on him. The man caught Ruijid's spear on the first thrust and punched him in the chin. Ruijid crumpled to the ground. Eris and Orba fought on. It only took one shot for both of them. Eris didn't even touch the man before she was blown away. Orba's first strike was deflected, and then he got stabbed through the chest. Then, Rudius finally used some magic. He launched a boulder, big enough and fast enough to take off someone's head. It landed with an amazing sound, but the man wasn't hurt at all. No, there was the tiniest of injuries where it hit. Just a small wound, like a paper cut. Right after that, Rudius died. Stabbed through the chest, just like last time. That was when my life ended, too. Just when the man got blurry, his arm was buried in my chest. No. Eris's scream echoed. Why did I underestimate him? Why did I think it'd all work out? Why? How? Racked with guilt, I heard Orba's last words. It can't be, the dragon god, Ersted. So. Now I knew that guy's name. Damn, I woke up for the third time, and pounded the bed with my fists. Why was it so easy? Why did Rudius just fall down dead like that? It had never been that easy, not even once. It was all my fault. I made the wrong decision. I let Rudius die again. Orba, too. I let him die. You don't seem to be in a very good mood. Did you wet the bed? I was so absorbed in my self-pity that I didn't even notice Orba standing there. Mr. Orba. The dragon god, Ersted. Do you know him? The one with silver hair and gold eyes, of course. There isn't a swordsman alive who does not know the name. The dragon god ranks second of the 7 great powers of the world. And even the existence of the one who ranks first is uncertain at the moment. Can you tell me how strong he is? Like, quantitatively, my teacher was called the Northern God, and ranks 7th among the 7 great powers. Descended from the undying demon folk, my teacher's body was almost indestructible, almost immortal. A hero who wielded a giant demon sword, itself near as tall as a man. My teacher slayed mountains of gigantic beasts, however, against the dragon god, even they were helpless as a babe in arms. The battle ended in my teacher's complete and utter defeat. As for other tales, the anecdotes about Ersted continued for a while. And the more I heard, the more dangerous he became. It was said that he could dodge attacks by reading the future. It was said he could render attacks he could not dodge invalid. It was said he'd mastered all the martial arts of this world. It was said he could smash mountains. It was said he was so ferocious that even the red dragons avoided crossing his path. It seemed that all of the 7 great powers of the world weren't normal, but the top 4 were said to be in a class of their own. Why was someone that big wandering around a place like that? What about checks and balances? Those anecdotes were enough to drive a person to curse. Even if I'd been clueless, I cursed myself for trying to take on a monster with one cheap trick. But of course, Ørsted is quite elusive. Someone you may never meet in your entire life. It is not certain how much of what is said is true. From what I'd seen, it was all completely true. Not only did he dodge all attacks, he also countered each one effectively. Orbo was definitely skilled, but Eris and Ruijerd must be pretty strong, too. He blew them all away like nothing. He was probably just as strong as the rumors said. Mr. Orba, if you were to fight him, how would you do it? If you couldn't afford to lose, oh dear, dear. Fight. That's not very peaceful, is it? No, I'm just curious. I mean, every guy thinks about this stuff, right? How to beat a super strong guy, that kind of thing. I didn't know a thing about this world, so I'd do best to start off by gathering information. Like how the swordsmen fought here, and what kind of decisions they made in battle. Only then could I start thinking about what I should do. You're not wrong. If it was me, I'd start by listening to Orba's ideas. I began to think of another strategy. When I told him my plan, Rudius raised his voice like he had an idea again. Yes, again, something wrong? No, let's just go with that. Same answer, but this time it bothered me a little. I ignored it the last time, but I'd also messed up. This time, I wanted to know. No. There is something, right? Like the plan's missing something? Or you're not happy about attacking someone who hasn't done anything? Say it, please. We're best buds, aren't we? Since when are we best buds? No, I don't want to die either, you know. You only get one life. I'll fight with all I got. I totally agree with you there, but come on, what's eating you? I just thought we could be a little more crazy. Crazy? Well, for example. Mumble mumble, mumble mumble. Can you do that? I mean the plan Rudius put forward was wilder than I could have imagined, such a pipe dream that my common sense said it was impossible. I would never have come up with it, but, if something like that were really possible, then our chances of victory were high. That's amazing. What else can you expect from someone who was reincarnated from another world? It's practically cheating, isn't it? Well, I don't know. It's not really cheating, but because I can do all this, I feel like I can make it. Don't you have something, Subaru? Oh yeah, you can predict the future, right? Well, I can't really explain the details. It would probably be better to tell Rudius about return by death, and make our plans accordingly, but there was nothing I could do. Whenever I tried to tell someone, I was assaulted by so much pain that I didn't even want to remember it. Oh, that's so. Given the situation, I want to tell you everything, you know? I want to tell you, but there's a serious reason why I can't. That's okay. If you can't, and it's not because you don't want to, that's just how it is, right? I get it. Seriously, I think I'm going to cry. Someone reincarnated into another world and someone summoned there. Because we had a similar knowledge base, there were some things we didn't have to say. Who could have known how much easier that would make things? If you're going to cry, do it when it's all over, brother. I'm pretty sure Rudius felt the same way. The third time began with Rudius's magic. First, he made a wall at the entrance to the Red Dragon's mandible with earth magic. He made another behind the unsuspecting Ørsted. Having blocked his escape route, calamity ensued. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. At the top of a cliff, Rudius handled the various magic. A fire so explosive, you'd think it was positively nuclear. Unthinkable amounts of water, so much that you'd need Noah's Ark, followed by freezing temperatures that approached absolute zero, and then, for the finale, a sheet of bedrock that fell on Ørsted like a blanket. Nothing could live through that. It was a total calamity. All that would be left was retrieve the magical tool. Even though we didn't defeat him mano a mano, Ørsted had to be seriously injured. You're kidding, right? He wasn't hurt at all. Ørsted tossed off the ice and bedrock, completely unharmed. He didn't even have a scratch on him. The edges of his clothes were just a bit singed. That's all. Oh no 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 no. Retreat. Rudius lost his cool and ran towards the mountains. That was some good acting, or, huh? Did he seriously lose his cool? Was the next part of the plan going to be okay? Oh well. Here went part 2, Rudius. The signal. The signal. Oh, why yeah. Rudius shot magic into the sky, it whooshed upwards, made a loud boom and a flash, and disappeared. Huh? Erstid stopped. He looked cautiously up at the sky. We expected him to be more hurt, but he moved so fast. I thought he'd just kill us, but we might just make it. What did you do? Erstid asked. I thought, I said. You know, even the red dragons avoid you. So why would you take a safe road? You took the red dragon's mandible, where even the dragons won't attack. Here came the moment of truth. We had no way of knowing how it had come out. But, based on what Orba said, if you flash lights or make loud noises in the area. Scree! A gigantic red shadow zoomed in with an ear-piercing shriek. I looked up, and there was a dragon. The ultimate monster of the central continent. A whole flock of them rushed towards us. I see. You did indeed think, said Erstid, like he was supremely bored. Too bad. For a split second, he disappeared. One of the dragon's heads exploded and fell to the ground. Red blood spurted from its body. After that, the other dragons were visibly shaken. With one blow? Seriously? All we could do was watch. According to the plan, we were supposed to fend ourselves from the red dragons and give a signal, at which point Ruijid and everyone else would go in to finish off Erstid. But we didn't have to. It wouldn't work at all. All of the red dragons were annihilated in the blink of an eye. And after that, we died, too. It happened over and over again. I think we tried everything. We even took Orba and Ruijid's advice and asked for help from the local adventurers guild. We tried poisoning and trapping him. But we just couldn't win. Nothing fazed him. All our plans ended in failure, and our deaths. But through all of it, no matter what I said, Rudius helped. Even when I got stressed and said things I shouldn't have, he said, if you saw someone from Japan in trouble in your world, could you just ignore them? You couldn't, right? Always with a wry grin, but never like he didn't want to help. Every time we tried, I wanted Rudius to live even more, but I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find the answer. I didn't know it, everything seemed bleak and emotionless. And I kept going through the loop, over and over again.
Mushoku Tensei X Re-Zero Collaboration, Chapter 3.
My name is Rudius Greyrat, and I reincarnated into another world as a totally hot guy. I might be hot, but I took my past life's mistakes to heart. I'm a nice guy now, admittedly. I've made some entirely new mistakes along the way, but I was a shut-in back on Earth, so I didn't have much life experience. I was bound to screw a few things up. That was my outlook on life. Do it right this time. I gave it my best shot, and the days passed by like that until I finally brought Eris to the Red Dragon's mandible. Our ultimate destination, the kingdom of Asura, was right in front of us. I was ready to work hard. Yo, said the young man in front of me as I was leaving the inn. His hair was on the short side, and he had an evil gaze. He was of average height and looked to be about 6 or 7 years older than me. What really stood out were his clothes. He had a tracksuit on. They have tracksuits here too. Okay, I didn't really think they made tracksuits in these parts. I'm not that naive. The guy's outfit was made from an entirely different cloth than you can find anywhere around. The zipper and the seams were different too. He was someone from another world. That's right. Here was someone who came to this world from Earth, just like me. There's nothing strange about that. It's not like I was special. I just hadn't met anyone like that yet, but now that I thought about it, there were probably more. Well, let's leave it at that, shall we? I asked. Excuse me, but are you all right? He looked worn out. Exhausted, both mentally and physically. Like he wanted to go back to his world, but couldn't. Like he didn't know how to get back there, and was wandering around aimlessly. Still, he looked straight at me. Maybe he heard about our party, Dead End, and how we save people. Sorry this is so sudden, But can you help me out? Of course, if we saw someone in need, we didn't just leave them. And if that person was someone from the same world as me, then there was even more reason to help. I see, he said he was Natsuki Subaru, and he was Japanese. He'd only arrived in this world a few days ago, and found out about me from Hitogami. To get back to his own world, he needed a magical tool and lots of power. That's why he was here. Some guy named Ersted had the tool. He was supposed to kill me at the Red Dragon's mandible. Supposedly, Hitogami doesn't want me dead, and sent Subaru because our goals were the same, to defeat Ersted. So you're saying you're an alien from another world, and you came A11 this way to save my life? Well, mostly I just want to get home. Let's focus on how we'll get that done. Subaru seemed a bit evasive. It was almost like he knew his plan was doomed to failure. To test that theory, I gave him few suggestions. Tried that, he replied. It didn't work. I felt more and more uneasy each time he rejected a suggestion. Multiple layers of large-scale magic, slicing red dragons on Ersted, surrounding him with high-ranking adventurers, none of that could defeat him. Well, I guess that's okay. That's just how strong he is. But where and when did all those things happen? If there was a huge battle, there should have been something about it at the Adventurers Guild, but I couldn't find anything of the sort. He'd tried too many different plans of attack, too. How could someone who just came to this world a few days ago have come up with so many plans and tried them all? Maybe he had some kind of special power. Like predicting the future, or maybe going back in time? If that was true, then why didn't he say so? Subaru, not to interrupt you or anything, but can I ask you a question? What? Do you have some kind of special power? Subaru looked shocked. His mouth spasmed, he broke out in a cold sweat. His eyes glazed over. Can't talk about it. I guess there was a reason, with a reaction like that. Maybe there was some kind of drawback involved. Like, if he told me, his power would be taken away and he couldn't go back in time again, or something. He rubbed at his neck. Sorry about that, it's okay. If you can't say more, that's just how it is, right? Stuff happens. Go on. Whether he could predict the future or go back in time, the situation didn't change. We needed a whole new approach. His expression told me that any obvious plan would end in failure, and our hope for success was slim to none. We had to change things up, or failure was inevitable. I had a few ideas, but maybe not good ones. If we'd gone through this loop already, we must have also already gone through my suggestions, right? In the previous loop, I must have realized he had some special power and said something. So there was a pretty real possibility that whatever came out of my mouth now was just a waste of time. Most importantly, it looked like everything we'd tried before had been a total failure. After I told him my latest idea, Subaru's face seemed to say, "Not again." He shook his head. "You got any other ideas? Anything at all? Doesn't matter how stupid they are, let's hear them." The way he worded that made it sound like he couldn't predict the future. After all, if he could, he'd know all my ideas before I even opened my mouth, wouldn't he? That meant his power was going back in time, which left me no option but coming up with some kind of brilliant plan to deal with an unstoppable enemy, like some kind of legendary general or genius detective. As if I wasn't that smart. Ultimately, there was only one thing I could say. Maybe we should give up on fighting him. If we simply can't beat him, then I doubt any new plans are going to change the inevitable. But Ersted's not easy to find. If we miss this chance, there's no telling when we'll see him next. I might never see him again, he answered really quickly. I must have said that before. Isn't there some other way to solve this? Like, he'll turn to ashes if we hit him with garlic or something? He's supposed to be a vampire, then? He looks more or less human, but I dunno. Looks, I didn't know Ersted. What he looked like, what his voice sounded like, or what his personality was like. There was even a chance he was a really nice guy. Maybe it'd be worth talking to him? But then again, if he was such a nice guy, would he really just up and kill me like that? Hold up. Why do I die, anyway? I told you. Ersted hits you in the chest at the red dragon's mandible, and, not that. Why did he want to kill me? I haven't done anything to make someone that dangerous hold a grudge. No, you haven't. Sorry, this is such a one-man show, but it looks like I changed history when I came here. You weren't originally supposed to die. Then if we change history back, I don't have to die, right? Subaru looked surprised. Guess I hadn't come up with that idea before. But his expression soon clouded over. I immediately knew why. I won't die, but you won't get that magical tool you need, right, Subaru? Forget I even mentioned it. Yeah, he came to me because he wanted help, stranded in another world without a shoulder to lean on, wandering all alone, struggling in vain, he was powerless. So he came to me, asking me for help. I knew he must be down, like I was when I was kicked out of my parents' house in my past life. And yet, through all of this, not only was he trying to get back to his old world, he was trying to save me, too, so we couldn't just save me. But if we couldn't save him, then why was I even alive now? Either way, the fact that Subaru was here meant that history had already changed. I could ask Hitogami how history used to be, but unless he gave me some detailed advice, I doubt we could fix it. Anyway, we couldn't succeed through brute force. If we ran, we might never see Ersted again. What other choice did we have? Use some kind of tool? Get him a box of cakes, say hello and kiss up to him. What if we just asked him to give us the thing? Nope. Tried talking to him, but it didn't work. He just flips all of a sudden. Seriously vicious. Like some kind of serial killer. You make it sound like some kind of shock comedy video. No one snaps like that for real, right? Maybe you said something? Something that rubbed him the wrong way. Well, yeah, I'm totally clueless socially, but I only said 1 or 2 words, and, oh. Subaru put his hand to his mouth. It looked like he'd figured something out. Hitogami, I knew that name too, yeah. I asked him if he knew Hitogami, and after he said he did, suddenly, oh, I get it, he thought we were on Hitogami's side. Ersted must really have hated Hitogami. Hated him so much that he'd kill anyone associated with him. I understood. I understood how much he hated him. I mean, I didn't like him, either. Well, now that we've got an idea about how to solve this peacefully, let's go. Yeah, Subaru looked a lot more hopeful. Even his voice was cheerful now. Of course, we still don't know if Ersted would give us the tool. But it was a lot more constructive than picking a fight we couldn't win. I didn't want to die either, you know. I got a second chance, but in general, you only live once. At the end of the day, given a choice, I'd like to go with love and peace. Finally, we made it to the red dragon's mandible. Ruijerd and Eris weren't here this time. We decided that just Subaru and I should go, because of how the others like to fight. Plus, according to Subaru, if it turned into a battle, they didn't stand a chance. After all that, if a bunch of bad guys appeared and Subaru said, "Hey, you seriously believed all that?" I'd just have to cry, lie on the ground, and hand over my wallet. But that wasn't what happened. That's him. At Subaru's terrified words, I looked up the road. A shady guy was walking up the trail. He wore a white coat, had flowing silver hair, and glared ahead, his aura bristling with intimidation. Was he walking so fast because he had some kind of pressing business? It's going to take some courage to talk to him, I said. Seriously, said Subaru. You have to be careful, or before you know it, his hand will be sticking through your chest. It's all right. I hid a coin in my chest pocket just now. Oh, great, no worries then. When push comes to shove, that coin'll totally save your life, not. Okay, I said. Then I'll add another 2. That makes 3. I'm totally covered. Do you seriously believe in lucky coins or something? Ersted is not the kind of guy who'll give in to bribery, you know. You have to get serious here, I know. I just wanted to lighten things up, that's all. Ersted was close now. This was it. Ahem. I see you are Lord Ersted, the dragon god. The look he gave me was so fierce that you could practically hear sparks fly. Who are you? I don't recognize your faces. Oh, where are my manners? I am Rudius Greyrat. Greyrat. Whose son are you? I am the son of a perverted bastard named Paul Greyrat. Whoops. By perverted, I'm not referring to what's between his legs, but rather, huh? For some reason, the hair on my neck rose. Was that reaction really because of Paul? That bastard, his bad reputation had started to spread. Erstid shifted his gaze. And that one's name? Natsuki Subaru. Never heard of you. Probably not. Subaru's eyes darted around furtively. Not good. We had to be friendly here. After all, we had to convince him to give us the magical tool. What do you want? Well, it's like this, you see. I heard a rumor that you, Lord Erstid, have on your person a certain magical tool that we have been searching after for many years, and finally, before I knew it, Erstid was looking at me. Motionless. Like he was looking into my soul. Is something wrong? You're not afraid of me, are you? No, although you are pretty scary. Whoops. Maybe it would have been better to say we were afraid. It's a gangster's job to scare people, after all. Could be he made that scary face on purpose to scare people, like some kind of draconic mafioso. Fine. Magical tool. You mean this? Erstid pulled out something shaped like a pocket watch. I looked at Subaru. I'm sure he nodded. I beamed and held out my hands. Ooh, thank you very much. I would expect nothing less of the dragon god. Such generosity. No wonder everyone holds you in such awe. Who said I would give it to you? Oh, right, Humphrey, no good, huh? I thought he'd just go with the flow. Erstid wondered, what can this magical tool do? Why do you want it? And who told you I had it? So he wasn't asking for something in return. I guess the last question was the most important one. It looked like he wanted us to mention Hitogami. I looked at Subaru, and his eyes were like, so what'll we do now? Calm down, buddy. Despite appearances, I was pretty good at lying my way out of things. That magical tool is a memento of his mother's. He dropped it somewhere in the kingdom of Asura and put in a quest at the guild for it. Then we got some information saying that the dragon god Erstid had it. We then chased down some information about you, Lord Erstid, deduced that you would pass through here, and waited for you. That's about it. Oh, and since it takes so much magic, we've never used it. Not even we know what it can do, tee-hee. It all just slid off my tongue. Hey, please, said Subaru, playing along. It might not be worth anything to you, but it's really important to me, you see. Your mother's name is? What? It's Naoko, but why? Never heard of her. Well, yeah. I mean, she's not famous or anything. I'd be surprised if you had heard of her. Erstid's eyes were shrewd. Subaru was bluffing as hard as he could, but he was sweating buckets. When Erstid put his hand on his chin, Subaru trembled and guarded his chest. He was acting really suspicious. Erstid thought for a while. Paul's son and Natsuki Subaru. Nanahoshi, and all of you. I have not seen this pattern before. Maybe I'll see where it takes me. He nodded slightly. Looks like it worked. Fine. Take it, said Erstid, casually throwing the magical tool to Subaru. Subaru fumbled, and caught it. Thank you, I bowed. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Subaru bowing too. We were Japanese, after all. Our heads were light and our backs bent easily. We will never forget our debt to you. No, seriously, I'll tell all my kids and have them tell their kids too. We'll practically worship you, Lord Dragon God, Subaru said as he turned around. There was no need to stick around. We needed to get away from there before we said something bad. Wait, but it was never that easy. Answer me this before you go. I knew this was coming. I was ready for this question, and only this question, from the beginning. I was going to keep up a poker face and just go with the flow. Do you know someone called Hitogami? Even so, my shoulders jumped. They jumped so much that anyone would be suspicious. At that moment, I knew. I couldn't possibly get past the question. No matter how or when he asked, I'd always react like this. Sure don't. The words slipped right out of my shaking mouth. So you do know. I felt his murderous intent growing behind me. Run, Rudius. I took off running the instant Subaru yelled. Shamak, my eyes were engulfed in darkness. I lost all feeling. I guess Subaru must have used some kind of power. The only thing I knew was that my feet were on the ground. It was almost as if I was running on top of a cloud. Suddenly, the darkness disappeared. At that moment I knew. This was the end. Did you say Shamak? An unusual spell, but such petty distractions will not work on me. It was right before my eyes. Speak. What did Hitogami tell you? What do you intend to do with the magical tool? Well, that is, I opened my mouth. The least I could do was tell Subaru, at the end, Subaru, I'll help you in any world, so go. Take the tool and use my. Ersted's arm pierced my chest. I couldn't breathe. Something bubbled out of my throat. I was going to die. In the face of such unacknowledgeable truth, I didn't have time to think. My consciousness was swiftly fading. The last thing I saw was Subaru's face, flush with despair and regret, as he gritted his teeth to battle fate.
Mushoku Tensei X Re-Zero Collaboration, Chapter 4.
Hey there, girls and boys, I'm Rudius Greyrat. I was reincarnated into another world as a totally hot, good-looking guy, enjoying this second life to the max. Though honestly, it's really embarrassing calling myself a good-looking guy. Anyway, I was fueled by the regrets of my past life to live my new one to its fullest. So I'll just have to deal with a little embarrassment and live with pride. Right now, I was at the Red Dragon's Mandible with my party, made up of Eris and Ruijerd. Due to a grave situation I ended up marooned on the Demon Continent, and now, after many years, the Kingdom of Asura was right before my eyes. I felt great. Rudius, I was heading out of the inn when a young man called me by name. I'd never seen him before, but when I laid eyes on him, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. He had short hair, and his eyes had an evil gaze. He was of average height, and looked about 6 to 7 years older than me. Maybe a high school kid? It was a while since I thought the phrase high school kid, but I think it fit him. Why? Because he was standing in a tracksuit. It didn't look like a school uniform, but the materials, the zippers, and the way the seams were made were all unfamiliar here. It was technology from another world. Another world. Yes, he was someone from another world, like me. I guessed he wasn't so special after all. There were other people in a similar situation. If there was a problem, it was the fact that he'd said my name. If his voice had a hint of malice or ill will, I would have been on my guard, but it didn't. What I heard in his voice wasn't malice, but trust. That was strange, wasn't it? It was the first time I'd met him. I knew I'd never met him in my previous life, either. But that absolute trust in me, for some reason, was enough to get through to me. Can you help me? I nodded immediately. Of course. He smiled. Yeah, he said, laughing. I thought you'd say that. No, I knew. I'm going to tell you something that doesn't make sense. Please just listen, okay? Natsuki Subaru, that was his name. After he introduced himself, he kept talking. He asked me to listen. I quietly lent an ear behind a not too popular inn. Rudius, I really owe you. I've never worked so hard to overcome anything before. I've never involved friends before, either. As predicted, what Subaru said made no sense. I had never done anything to warrant him owing me anything, but I couldn't decide if I should interrupt. If someone's serious, it was right to be serious back. We tried this and that and the other thing, and it all failed. So many times. I got so tired of it. To be honest, it's a pathetic story, and I'm on the verge of giving up, but you said, you know, that you'd help me in any world. Subaru grabbed at his chest. His face was rigid with uncertainty and nervousness, like a child who was afraid of getting in trouble. Only he immediately exhaled and looked relieved. So that's okay then. As usual, I have no clue what's going on. While I was watching Subaru get that off his chest, I came up with a hypothesis. Subaru said any world. He also really trusted me, but I'd never met him before. What I took from that was, this initial meeting with Subaru wasn't really the first time we'd met. going back in time, that phrase kept going through my mind. I thought of the possibility that he could predict the future, but the way Subaru interacted with me had this more grounded feeling. It felt real. You can't feel close to someone like that unless you had really met, talked, and been friendly before. Then I thought that the me from before must have got along well with Subaru. But there was something about that which made me a little uncomfortable. Had Subaru and I met many times? Rudius. You catch on so quick. I didn't say anything, you don't have to. I can see it in your face. It's really creepy saying stuff like that, you know. That wasn't a come on. I already have someone I like. Sorry, Subaru. Let's just be friends. Sorry, Rudius. It's not you, it's me. That was a decent comeback. Subaru and I could probably pull off an okay comedy routine if we set our minds to it. We had an instinctive rapport. Even though I'd just met him, we could already sling around banter like it was no big deal. Ha ha. Well, let's get back to business. Oh, and I'll tell you up front. You don't have to worry anymore, meaning, this is probably the last time we'll meet. As he said that, Subaru put his hand into the pocket of his tracksuit and showed me something. It looked like a pocket watch. And this clock-looking thing is? It's a magical tool. A special magical tool, the chain jingled. Subaru gripped the watch. No, the magical tool, as if it was something precious. My goal was to get my hands on this. It's the culmination of all the adventures of Natsuki Subaru and Rudius Greer. What's wrong? Subaru suddenly grabbed at his chest and fell over. I caught the magical tool in a flurry. His sudden seizure freaked me out. You all right? Did something happen? Is it the magical tool? No, it has nothing to do with that. Uck. It's like I stepped on a landmine. Crap, I let my guard down. Come on, that was a low blow. Who are you complaining to? I helped Subaru to his feet and patted the dirt off him as he cussed. Then I gave him back the magical tool. Here. Take care of it. You worked pretty hard to get this thing, right? You wanted to tell me because I'm from the same place as you. That's not it, Rudius. This is our victory, he said in a strong voice. Yours and mine. Subaru took the magical tool. We really suffered to get our hands on this. To be honest, you died, or you almost died, and even then we failed. When I thought it was never going to happen, you told me. I told him something. So that's what turned the tables? What kind of advice did I give? I mean, I'm doing better now, but I was such a pathetic failure in my past life. What could I have said? It's easy. You said to talk to him. It was that easy? Don't be stupid. Of course it wasn't easy. Who do you think it was? It was Ørsted, who makes crying kids cry more. You're the one who made it sound easy, aren't you? Now he was mad at me? Who the heck was Ørsted, anyway? Someone you had to apologize to in hell? That's right. It wasn't easy. After all, he wasn't the type of person you could just talk to. Plus, he's stronger than you can imagine. Even Ruijerd didn't stand a chance against him. I won't let you make fun of Ruijerd. I'm not making fun of him. Ruijerd's a really great guy. The best. A man's man. So you know him, then. Subaru and I exchanged a firm handshake. Anyone who knew how great Ruijerd was couldn't be bad. That was the moment when I think Subaru and I understood each other best. Anyway, back to the story. We kept attacking this dangerous guy. We tried a lot of times, well, about 10 times, and finally, we got him to give it to us. I see. That's GR. I was about to say it was great, but the words caught in my throat. Subaru's expression stopped me. This morning was the first time I'd met Subaru. He told me about stuff I didn't know, and I was just nodding in agreement. Should I really say that's great, like it all didn't matter? Subaru had told me about these inhuman efforts lightly. Even so, that didn't mean it was easy. Of course, he wouldn't take all the credit. Subaru was grateful to me. Well, to the me from another world. Ruijerd and Eris might even have helped out. If they hadn't, why did he think so highly of Ruijerd? This story that I didn't know was all because of inhuman efforts that I also didn't know about. He tried really hard. I'm sure Subaru's special power had limits. But, despite all that, he tried really hard. When I tried really hard, what did my friends do? What did they say? Roxy and Sylphie, Paul and Zenith, Eris and Ruijid, what did they do? Subaru, why yeah? My bad. My bad. I guess I was basking in the glory of a job well done, and you really tried hard, didn't you? Yeah, did I say it right? Like those people who were good to me, like my friends did for me. Did I say it kindly? With all the hard work Subaru did, would my words make it worthwhile? I wasn't sure they would. Still, Subaru let out a short, shaking sigh and scrunched up his hair. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. I slowly turned around. It looked like he was my friend, and even I know that a man doesn't want his friends to see him cry, and so I didn't look at him. However long it took before he was done crying, it was nothing compared to the path he'd taken. Sorry for losing it, said Subaru, with a very red nose. Since I was his friend, I didn't draw attention to it. Either way, I got his situation. And now that you've got your hands on the magical tool, what are you going to do? If you don't have a place to stay, no, I have a place to be. This thing will, it's supposed, get me back to my old world. You're returning home? My heart jumped deep in my chest. It's not like I hadn't thought about it. My old world, the world where I lived and died before I came here. The world where I lived my past life. It's a hassle to explain it, but that's not exactly right. The world I want to return to is another other world. Huh? What do you mean? It means I tripped off to another world once, and came to this world after. And the world I have to get back to is the one right before this one. Well, you've clearly had quite a few ups and downs. According to Subaru, this was his second other world. He figured that out when he met Hitogami in a dream. That shady god told Subaru about the magical tool he needed to return, and that some dangerous guy had it. It made me suspicious. I wasn't sure I could believe that Hitogami would help someone. The magical tool needs a huge amount of magic to make it work. That's why Hitogami mentioned you. I see. Okay, got it. Are you ready? I took another long look at the magical tool and Subaru's eyes opened really wide. What? Did I say something wrong? No, I knew you'd just do it. You going to be all right in this dangerous world, being a good Samaritan and all that? Won't someone trick you into being a slave? Nor, getting thrown in prison butt naked was about the worst of it. Dude. Hardcore. After all, I'd lived in another world for quite a while now. I had stories about the hardships I'd overcome too. Although the got imprisoned naked episode was, in fact, pretty hardcore. Anyway, we talked like that for a bit and then a strange silence came between us. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was just that the time had come. I think Subaru felt it, too. You just fill it up with magic, right? Dunno. It didn't come with instructions, and I haven't ever used it. Don't break it now. What'll you do? I'll break it. Pretty sure my heart'd break along with it. Whoa, scary. Quite a heavy responsibility. I couldn't afford to screw up. I held the magical tool carefully, and took a deep breath. Then I imagined magical power flowing into the tool. Huh? Whoa, the next second, it was like I was feeding a greedy monster. It was sucking the magic right out of me. It felt like it was going to suck me dry. For someone with less magic, this would have been impossible. But I'd pretty much figured out that my magical power was my only saving grace here. This much? I could handle it, and done. Whoa. Amazing. I'd expect no less from the mighty Rudy. You know, it's hard to feel mighty with him using my nickname like that. But I guess it was worth being sucked dry if it made him that happy. I fixed my grip on the magical tool and held it out to Subaru. He took it fearfully. Then I just pushed that button on the top, I guess, probably. I don't think it'll explode or anything. What'll you do if it does explode? Well, I put a whole lot of magic into this thing, so. Die, I guess? Well, that probably wouldn't happen, right? And so everything was ready. As for the rest, Rudius, Subaru said, looking straight at me. You might be able to return to your old world with this too, you know. You reincarnated here from another world, right? I mean, I haven't been here long, but I can tell this isn't an easy world to live in. So, but you're not going back to Earth either, are you, Subaru? I shook my head at his kind but seductive offer. I knew he was thinking of me. He couldn't help but offer. I would have done the same. It wasn't that I didn't like my old world. That world had its good parts. He wasn't joking about this world being hard, either, but I decided that I was going to live life seriously this time, in this world. And so I had. Do-overs didn't come easy. This was my second chance, and I would do the best I could. So you're getting serious in this parallel world, huh? I guess people like us can't help ourselves. Guess not. That's why we've got to help each other out, right? Yeah, you're right. Subaru laughed it off. He held out the magical tool and pushed the button. The next second, a magical circle appeared beneath him, shimmering with green light. I could tell that the magic inside the tool was cycling furiously. A faint, radiant aura appeared and engulfed Subaru. It wasn't disturbing. In fact, it was a gentle light. I knew it would take him back to where he came from. Bathed in that green glow, Subaru smiled at me. Rudius, thanks for everything, okay. Suddenly, I didn't know what to say. Was live long and prosper or take care okay? What should I say to someone who shared the same home world as me about to depart to yet another? While I was wondering what to say, Subaru said something totally unexpected. Your fate's changed. You don't have to die. So live long and prosper, okay, fate? I was going to die? What in the world was he talking about? Before I could ask, his smile was engulfed in the light. You idiot, I shouted. Make sure you don't die before we meet again. Subaru looked caught off guard. I don't want to die, either, if at all possible. But, you know, whatever happens, happens. It sounded like he'd made his peace with that risk, a long time ago. I dropped my hands and cocked my head. Huh? What was I doing? I was standing, spaced out, at the back of the inn. I knew I'd hit puberty and all, and sometimes I needed some time to myself, but this wasn't like that. And why does my body feel so heavy? It's the same kind of tired I get when I blast out a lot of magic. The only thing I was really confident about was how much magic I had, but right now, it was super low. I was exhausted. What in the world had happened? This is weird. But oh well, the weirdest thing, weirder than the fatigue, was that I was feeling strangely good. Almost like I'd done the right thing. Or maybe it's more like the feeling of wearing brand new underwear on New Year's morning. That was a pretty good way of expressing it, if I did say so myself. That's right. I'd changed my underwear. Or rather, it just felt like I did. Rudius, where are you? We're about to leave, you know. Oh, Eris. Sorry. I'm over here. This way. I heard Eris calling, and I hurried to her side. Right before I made that first step, I looked up at the sky. I don't know why. I just looked at the blue sky above my head. In this world, I'm getting serious about life, I swore, to no one in particular. It was almost like I was making a promise to someone.